So even with a liquid net worth of around 1.1 mil at age 27, I refuse to purchase a house. This money is in the stock market, high interest cash accounts, Bitcoin. I do not like real estate right now. In fact, I even sold my property in 2024. This is coming from someone who's purchased a house before. It was the best financial decision I've made in a while, was offloading that damn thing, because I would have lost around 30 to 40 grand extra if I held on to it. And before you click off thinking I'm like just whack, just give me a couple minutes, because the math I'm going to show you will hopefully change how you think about home ownership. And we've been sold this, weird ass dream of owning a property and how it's the best thing you could do for your entire future, which I just think is so plain stupid. For the average Joe, okay, for a tiny, tiny sliver who wants a place to live very, very long term, I'm talking, staying in the same location for 20 to 30 years. Okay, sure. Home ownership is good because it's like a forced savings account, right? Because you're paying down an asset, it's a mortgage, it's very illiquid. But dude, honestly, for most people in their 20s and 30s trying to actually get rich, I think it is a very, very silly idea. So again, this is funny because if you have known me for a while, if you followed this channel, I run a real estate lead gen business. My whole identity is tied up and dependent almost on people buying and selling houses. Again, I own my own personal property. I went through the whole process, the down payment, the closing costs, the maintenance, all of it. But again, that summer to go full liquid was, thank God I did, because the real estate market right now is an absolute disaster. There is a record number of millionaires renting right now, and it's finally being seen as an actual strategy to not purchase anymore and go for other types of assets. This is what wealthy people are doing, financially intelligent people are doing, and I'm going to show you exactly why. So again, what I was talking about, the math, I want to talk about the 5% rule. I don't think this is talked about enough. Take any home's value, multiply it by 5%. That number represents what home ownership actually costs you per year when you factor in the property tax, the maintenance, the insurance, the things that break, right? Opportunity cost in general of not putting your money into other assets. Divide that by 12, and that is your actual monthly carrying cost. So let's say you're looking at a $500,000 house, okay? 5% of that is obviously 25 grand. $25,000 per year, or about 2K-ish a month in real cost. Now, if you rent a comparable place for less than 2 grand a month, you are literally losing money by buying. In most markets right now, you can rent for 30 to 40% less than what ownership actually costs. Not what a realtor says it actually costs, but like the actual net numbers. So let's say you're renting for $2,500 a month. That's $30,000 a year all in, no other cost. Now let's look at that $500,000 house with the 6.5% mortgage rate. Your monthly mortgage payment is around $3,000. And that first 10 years, 70 to 80% of that is just pure interest. So you're kind of throwing away around $2,000 to $2,400 per month right there. At least that's already as much as your rent, right? And then I don't even want to get, into the boring stuff of maintenance, all the other costs, but it doesn't matter, right? You're looking at $30,000 to $40,000 per year that you're spending that builds you zero equity and zero wealth. Meanwhile, the renter, like me, for example, I pay $2,300 a month. I don't got to worry about any of that. I have freedom. I've got mobility. It just doesn't matter. When something breaks, I laugh. I'm just like, all right, this is going to be fixed in a couple days anyways. I don't have to think about it at all, right? So who is really throwing away the money here? And again, we'll get into point number 2, which is the opportunity cost. It is so goddamn big right now. Let's really keep up with what's actually being thrown away. The down payment alone, let's say you put $100,000 down on a house, that money is now locked up in an asset. This is exactly what happened to me that historically returns 3 to 4% a year, and that's being pretty generous. That's including the insane appreciation we saw when I bought my pre-construction property in August 2020, which is not normal. Let's say you took that same money, you put it in the beautiful S&P, historical average return is 10% annually. Over 30 years, that 100 grand becomes $1.7 million. Even at a conservative 8%, you're looking at over $1 million, right? And that's just the down payment opportunity cost alone. What about all the other stuff? The difference between what you pay renting versus owning, let's say $1,000 a month, invested over 30 years at 8%, same thing, same conservative number. That's another 1.5 million. So by buying that house, you're potentially giving up $2 to $3 million in wealth over your lifetime. For what, too? For the privilege of saying you own something so that the bank technically actually owns until you pay it off 30 years from now? We haven't even talked about closing costs or all the fees that are associated with it. And I promise you, if you haven't purchased a house before, they rack up very, very quickly. That's up to 80 grand that just evaporates if you invested that money at a very conservative rate. Your house needs to appreciate 16% just for you to break even, right? Versus renting and investing instead and staying very liquid. And that's the other thing. It's like I look at the down payment. It takes people save for a lifetime just for a down payment on a property when you could stay so much more liquid by investing in other stuff. And again, I got to put a disclaimer here. This isn't financial advice, okay? I'm not trying to sway you in one simple decision. I'm just trying to open your eyes and really say, do you want real estate? Do you actually want to own a property and be like that? Because if you do, I respect it. Real estate is tangible. You could touch it, feel it. I get that. But I don't know. It's not in my wheelhouse right now. And again, this goes on to point number 3. I think liquidity, especially in this generation right now, is the new wealth. And this is what people don't talk about. The highest earners right now are switching jobs every 2 to 4 years and getting 10 to 20% raises. Remote work has opened up crazy opportunities. AI is disrupting all this. If you want to capitalize on any of this, you need to be mobile. You need to be able to pivot. You need to have cash available, right? Just in case. You can't be cash poor, house rich. That doesn't make any sense. So let's say you get an incredible job in another city, $50,000 raise, that's a life-changing opportunity, but you own a house I see this with Toronto, right? They have to commute 2 hours away because they bought in 2020. Things looked good back then, but now they're having to commute 4 hours a day and they're losing so much money just by doing that, right? So that process takes months and it costs you 8 to 10% a year in transaction fees and carrying costs. Or let's say you want to start a business, you need money. Your wealth is trapped in your house. You could do a cash out refi or a HELOC, home equity line of credit, but now you're paying interest just to access your own money, right? Meanwhile, I've got 1.1 million liquid and an opportunity comes up, I can move it immediately. I want to buy the dip in the market, which I've done a ton of, done. I see a business opportunity that comes up, sweet, I can fund that. I want to run some ads, boom, I could get that done. Like the flexibility is worth more than any potential home appreciation in your 20s. Okay, again, I'm not talking if you're 50s, 60s, 70s. Like you gotta take some chips off the table. Like, you go buy the property at this point. But today's world, the biggest financial wins come from being able to move fast and capitalize on stuff. Being locked into a house is like playing the game with a ball and a freaking chain on your ankle. It doesn't make any sense. You're being anchored, right? So again, kind of going to the 4th point, which I didn't really want to talk about this, but the market timing is terrible. I'm not a big fan of, timing the market, but just look at this dude. Like literally, it's one of the worst times to buy in a decade right now. Mortgage rates are still sitting at, I think, 6 to 7%. I haven't checked that in a while, but compare that to the 3% rates that people were getting in 2020, 2021. That difference on a $500,000 loan costs you an extra $1,000 a month, right? Over the life of the mortgage. Home prices are still near all-time highs in most markets, at least. Yeah, they've come down from the peak, but they're still stupidly inflated compared to historical norms, and inventory is starting to increase, which means prices are likely to soften even more. So, I mean, that's not bad, but then you're locking in at a terrible interest rate on an overpriced asset in a slow down market, right? Even if you can't afford it, why would you do that? Why not stay liquid? Keep investing. And if you really want to buy a house someday, just wait for a better entry point. That's what I realized in 2024. I looked at where the market was heading. I'm like, I need to get liquid right now. I need to sell this thing and just get this off my hands, because just the mental, a water pipe broke when the house was brand new. I didn't have to fix it, but just that being on my mental was like, dude, I cannot deal with this. I have so much other shit on my plate right now. This is not, and nobody was even living it at the time, right? And I was like, I can't do this. This is such a waste of my mental energy. So again, that deteriorated while my portfolio continued skyrocketing, right, with that money. So again, remember what I hinted at in the beginning. Millionaires are renting at a record, stupidly high rate right now. And people don't really think about that, but there are way more high net worth individuals doing this than ever before. And that's not a coincidence. Wealthy people understand opportunity cost. I've really seen this firsthand the last 18 months. They understand what's called liquidity premium. They'd rather own cash flowing assets, dividend stocks, or growth stuff, Bitcoin, businesses, or just diversify the whole thing. I don't any of those other than real estate right now, because they don't want it tied up in something that's not illiquid, right? So if you're a real estate investor, you probably rent your own place. Why? Because you want your money in an income producing real estate, not your primary residence. That's a whole other conversation. If you want to invest in properties, that's one thing. There's deals to be done right now, but I'm talking personal residence for the most part, right? The stigma around renting is, I think it's completely gone at the high end. In fact, it's becoming more of a status symbol across some of my higher net worth buddies. They're all renting. It shows you're financially sophisticated enough to just open your eyes a little bit. Home ownership is kind of a scam, if I'm being honest, and they're realizing this, but a lot of boomers or people that are in their late 30s, early 40s just don't see right now. So again, I already hinted at this, but like freedom, beyond all the numbers, beyond all that shit, there's something nobody wants to admit, and homeownership just kind of sucks. You spend your weekends doing all the maintenance, something breaks, it's your problem. Property taxes go up, doesn't matter. You're stuck paying them. You say the market freaking crashes, well then you're getting double fucked. Your home value drops 20%. You just lost your entire down payment in equity alone. As a renter, as I said, none of that is my problem. Something breaks, I text my landlord, it's fixed for free. Want to try living in somewhere else? I moved about 40 minutes last year away because I just wanted to try a new city. Awesome. I can move all my stuff and I'm going on a lot of monthly trips. I'm traveling a lot more now. So being able to just shut the door, turn the key, and not have to worry about anything is incredible, right? There's a quality of life component here that just gets ignored, thinking that homeownership is the dream and that, stupid narrative. For a lot of people, myself included, that freedom alone is priceless. So you might have, hopefully you've been sold on that and you understand where I'm coming from. But even if you have objections, you're not building equity. Okay, but equity that you can't access without paying interest or selling your house isn't really wealth. It's kind of trapped value. Yes, it is yours. But again, I see this everyone. It's like, holy crap, my house is appreciated 50% because I bought in 2020. It's like, well, that's good. Or even 100%. But it's like, where are you going to go, brother? Like, what happens? Awesome. You sell. I purchase this right now. I give you a cold hard cash, everything, 100%. I buy your house for 500,000 liquid. You bought it for 400,000. Where do you go? You're just going to have to purchase another property. It doesn't make any sense, right? I'd rather have liquid wealth that I could deploy however I want. And then the other objection is forces you to save. It's like, okay, that's fair, like I said in the beginning, but if you need a mortgage to force financial discipline, I think there's a bigger problem there, dude. That's a behavior issue, not an investment strategy. A disciplined person who rents cheap and invests the difference, which I'm a big fan of, keeping your monthly burn low, that's how you get wealthy. That's how you get rich, right? There's so many factors about that. And then the inflation hedge. It's like, dude, stocks and Bitcoin also hedge against inflation and they're liquid. Plus property taxes and maintenance costs also inflate over time. You didn't think about that. That's eating into your returns, right? And, rent keeps going up. It's like, so do property taxes, dude. So does insurance. So does maintenance, all this stuff. So as I end up this video, that's the main points. I'm not saying nobody should ever buy a house. If you're sold in one location forever, if you got a family, you got stability, I get it. It's a top priority. But if you've already maxed out every other investment vehicle and you just want to park some money in real estate, great. But for most watching this, especially my young guys, listen to me. If you're young, if you're career focused, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to build serious wealth, I just don't think buying a house is the best thing to do right now. It's probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make. So again, not tying up my capital in a house. I'm very liquid. I've got proof of that. I hope that you can feel the same way. And I know this went a little bit longer, so I hope you enjoyed this. As always, if you made it this far, I want to see you win. We'll see you in the next one.